About 10 days, 12 days ago, I started a poem that I'm still working on, but I'd like to read it, the version that I have now. It had been a rather comfortable day for me, a good day, in fact. And I was thinking about the world situation as it was, and knowing I would be doing this reading 2 days after that momentous decision was made on the 15th. Incense. All day from the eaves of the house, the bird feeder banged against the clapboard siding. One quiet moment at dusk, the air fresh from snow newly fallen, cardinals, blue jays, chickadees fought each other for a feeding place. Inside, the homely comforts, pungent fragrance and smoke filling the house. How easily the match was struck. Now frankincense, now myrrh. Nightfall. The Soviets on PBS. Azerbaijanis gather in rebellion. The film producer forgoes buying a new car, buys instead videotapes, sends copies of his work around the world. Some say even Gorbachev has one. On a hillside, a shepherd gathers his sheep. A priest surveys ruined icons, lights a censer. Who and where? The sparrows, the rag lady on O Street, the single mother in a welfare line, the first case of AIDS on the block, the women, children, and men in Lithuania, in Israel, in Turkey, in Kuwait, in Iraq, etc., 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 etc. In another context, James Dickey has written, "Guilt is magical." And so it continues. A cup of herb tea, next a warm bed, the mind carousing, a crowd of need, its loud wind rising. A couple of poems that I haven't read here before from Staying the Winter, a short love lyric. Again. I remember how soon a dandelion trampled down reblooms, how your hand works its magic when all words fail, and afterward, how the pulse in the small of the ankle continues its dance. In the last poem, Plum Blossoms, it speaks of my transition as a Midwesterner, having lived here and been raised here, up to Alaska. So both poems figure, or both states figure in this poem. Plum Blossoms, with a little epithet by the 11th century poet Li Ching Chow, this flower cannot be compared to other flowers. And I'm in Alaska. The old country is Nebraska. Already the plum blossoms have blown away in my old country. When I left, how difficult throwing out 3 branches you cut for me along the north road. Only the pussy willow flowers here, mid-May, and the birch trees are still unopened balls of green. Tonight I will drink a cup of wine, look through my box of dried flowers for one stem, a few petals. I have a chapbook coming from Transient Press, so most of these next few poems that I'm reading are new poems, and they are based in Alaska. The setting is Alaska for most of them. Those northern lights. I've just been hearing how scientists can fabricate them in their attempt to understand them. Well, here we were camping by Lake Skilak. Those northern lights. On an island of stones in the middle of Lake Skilak, gulls and terns called out, signaling. In response, the beating of wings overhead, arms of ghost birds swooping down, then withdrawing. All night we were gathered up. The aurora, horizon to horizon, another wild rocking. Above us the spinning, and all night the reaching. The papers reported nothing like it on record. In the coastal part of Alaska, it's cloudy. The days are much like today's, most of the year round. 60 out of 300 and however many days, 52 days. 60 days of full sunlight in Alaska. And I did miss the blue skies. There's a wonderful wildflower that they think is a weed, like the dandelion here. The lupin. It's very blue and very beautiful. This is after camping, waking at Anchor Point, Kenai Peninsula. Not yet in pursuit of our dreams, nor looking for a body to inhabit, we listen to voices. Wind through birch, wind through cottonwood, prickly rose, bluebell, wind through alder. Almost raining now, so much lupin, we do not miss the blue sky. There's a lovely river to the north of Anchorage in the wilderness, the Nelchina, and there's always sort of a comfortable music, a comforting music coming from it. There's a small joke in this poem because even though the title of it is Fishing the Nelchina, only one of the three, the red shirt, is after fish. So there's a small joke about that. Fishing the Nelchina. The man in the red shirt comes down with his fly fishing rod and his brown husky mutt. The man in the blue shirt comes down with his camera. Without asking, the blue shirt photographs the red shirt. The brown mongrel stands at attention. The woman in the black shirt puts down her pen and paper. The blue shirt says to the black shirt, "I wonder if the red shirt is getting any good pictures." The black shirt says, "Each in our own way, we record the river sounds to sleep by at night." This is the depth of snow. A step at a time, my feet in depressions, left in the fallen and falling snow, perhaps a half hour ahead of me, one man's, and beside them, prints of a dog. Into the park, past trees, past a bench where snow is sitting, two sparrows beneath it. Around the streetlight, a halo of snow still falling, all silent, no wind. I keep my steps in his, and beside us, the dog, past the white and lovely houses, until we are in another world. Yet the trail turns in, goes beyond the gate, straight up to the door. Not following, I pause only briefly. By a small mistake of one world for another, trying to make something beautiful again, I begin the solitary tracks, my own quiet way back to you. It is dark and still snowing. Daylight. Since our habit is evading the old slow dissonances we move by, I leave you and drive alone to Potter's Marsh, the only spot where the sun is shining. Years ago, I sat on rocks by the greenhouse waiting for a freight train to pass over 2 pennies, hoping they'd be flattened. As the cars rolled by, it seemed I shifted and the train stood still. When it left, the coins were gone, the rails hot to my touch. Here at the marsh, a south gale rocks the Volkswagen. 2 mallards fly down to a stand of grass, and though their nest at first glance glides forward, it is only the wind-pushed waves. The illusion that we make progress. Turnagain Arm, the Gulf of Alaska, gives the history of that name. It's all one word, and they don't say turn again, they say Turnagain. But it is turning again. Driving the long way down in silence, yours a retreat and mine a question of how to turn back from resentment to desire, I recalled how this body of water looked good to Captain Cook, who thought he'd found the Northwest Passage. Hunkered down out of the wind in wildflowers, red corydalus brushing your cheek, you gestured toward the mountains behind a scrim of mist, barely discernible in the rain. Like a woman, you said, more alluring, clothed than naked. You blew the warm words into my hands, and my nipples lifted against my shirt. Yet again, you did not touch me. In those days, expectation was all. Now, only a flicker of sun over mica and sand in the shallow, retreating tide, and a ship circling back for a way out. Autumn, the salmon. At Willowa Creek, I photographed 2 silvers. That's how we say. We aren't in salmon country. A silver is a silver salmon. Fry are the babies. That figures here too. At Autumn, the salmon. At Willowa Creek, I photographed 2 silvers, named one Gypsy Flamenco, the other Red Harp. When I aimed the camera your way, you turned, moved out of range, kept silent. Finally, I decided no more pictures. Approach and loss, never captured, held fast. Later, from the tent and quiet next to you, I took note. The filigree of black cottonwoods against the sky, the first leaves falling. On Turnagain Arm, pods of belugas rolled up the tide, feeding on fry who would not make it back. So this, then, is home. The distance between birth and death and ocean. And time now, the distance between us. It was easy to find berries in Alaska. Very easy. This is a poem that I wrote in Tarkio. Garden raspberries. Tame and last year taken by wind and birds, I claim them this season by the handfuls. Those I reach for through the fence, the sweetest. Looking back for the wild world, the one with bears and mountains, I follow a path on the shore of Lake Skilak, patches flattened, berries cleared. When we first found what was better than apples, knowledge also came of one who abandoned human form, took the fruit and left me thorns. Spirit bear, this is the song you gave me. I sing in remembrance. I offer stained hands. The title of this poem is from a line by the poet Primo Levi. And we all know how it is to be here in one place and mentally to be in several other places. And that happens in this poem. I'm in Missouri and Alaska and Nebraska here. The title of the poem, and it is Primo Levi's line, "You don't have to go to Alaska to see something marvelous." Taking a sip of Southern comfort, Tarkio, Missouri, 2 a.m., the first day of summer, still 80 degrees, and I'm on my way into Tok, Alaska, wanting a pair of beaded Athabascan moccasins. So much hoarfrost on trees that coming into the valley I think we're in love, and we are, at 14 below. Native women, eyes inscrutably oriental, look away. The pair fits. At home, the closet smells of urine. It's the cure they use, you tell me. They sit on the back porch 2 seasons till the odor is gone. We were great together for a time. Eventually we put down our smiles, our Yukon Jack. Our days paralleled the Arctic Circle. 12 years later, holes worn in the soles, sitting on a shelf next to poetry books, it all smells of nothing but whiskey. Sometimes memory brings me things that never happened, never will occur, that we could be friends again. But how? You, the tundra below, aurora borealis above, sweeping the past in refracted light. Me, my deep blue skies and star-filled nights, 5 steps behind, nothing so much as myself, the pleasure of my solitary company. And what if it's true? As a child, drawn into the street of a small Nebraska town, looking north, I saw them, the northern lights, beckoning in hot July, longing for the cold and someone like you. This too is by Lake Ski Lac, and it's from that small chapbook. I think I'm going to title the chapbook tentatively now, To Alaska, and it's from the line by Prino. You don't have to go to Alaska to see something marvelous. This one, too, is by Lake Ski Lac. Tanagers, that beautiful, beautiful bird. I went to wait for a while by the lake and trees. A pair of them flew from pines to the ground, and they came, many. After a while, berries I threw their way. If I'd lie down, birds at my head. And it became a while before it came to me, scarlet, moving closer, all the time waiting after all the tanagers whiling away the time. Only one flew up to a tree branch, waiting to go the whole way alone, all the long way home. So here I am back in the Midwest. I have dried herbs hanging in my kitchen, and the pots that I brought in, repotted things, they died. My friend Gloria was a great inspiration to me. In any case, here is a poem going for time, T-H-Y-M-E. Gloria, her herb garden, a taste for chicken and thyme, send me out of town on Highway O, past the airport, slowly, 25 miles an hour, since the morning's ahead of me. Around 5 curves, cross a wooden bridge, 2 more curves, 1 mile east, 1 mile north, and here's Hearst's greenhouse in the hills outside Westboro. No one in sight. Just a large black mongrel barking at the odor of fear I must give off, and I begin to imagine I smell it myself. Hello, I venture. Hello, anyone here? Inside one greenhouse, no plants. No one. Next one, the fan is running. By God, this is no Eden. Geraniums wilting, petunias dead in dry packed earth. Rosemary, sage, and oregano look almost healthy. Tarragon, impatiens. I think of taking several, leaving a note and a blank check, but I came for time. By the door, a message. Sonia, water roses as instructed. Nothing more, no Sonia. Still, no one. I begin to invent. A child with tick fever, a sister's shotgun wedding, Mr. H, a heart attack, a bank foreclosure. 15 minutes of more looking around and calling, and I'm out of here. On back roads. No rush. To Shenandoah, on poor Missouri's crazy quilts of cement, asphalt, and bumps. Crossing into Iowa, past blooming thorns, brown-eyed Susans, milkweed in the ditch. Slow, smooth drifting. Earl May has everything. 100 varieties of annuals, perennials, deciduous and evergreen trees. Terracotta pots, grow lights, aquariums with tropical fish, everything but time. I buy tarragon, basil, and mint. Heading out of town, a stray wild rose, more brown-eyed Susans, butter and eggs make me vow to return with a spade, but by God, I am no gardener. My backyard for years without form. Void, no herbs yielding seed. U-turn. Back to Earl May, I choose rosemary, sage, oregano, silver mound, chicken and eggs, hen and eggs, lavender, zinnias, impatiens. $18, 70 miles, 4 hours later, and the plants are in. I step back, my hands on my hips, survey my small plot, and see that it is good. My days are ahead of me. I have all the time in the world for time. Genesis. Gloria. This is an old poem that I sent from Alaska, but it somehow seemed appropriate tonight. Christmas letter from Alaska. Dear friends, night comes early here, and the stars I see may not be visible to you on a latitude further south than mine. One New Year's Eve in Uxmal, I searched the sky for Ursa Major, but the bear was north, over Washington, Wyoming, and Nebraska, within your sight, then as now. Imagining Bethlehem's star, I became 7 again at the Christmas pageant, the Madonna swathed in blue, invisible promise in her arms. I wanted to be her, the serene one, pondering the secrets I could keep. These days I want to share them. The light falls to his knees on the floor. Night at the window moves toward me. On the horizon, one star will slip away with another tilt of the earth. Friends, the world spins in a wind we do not understand. There are constellations not found by any eye. Yet there is the word. Set loose within our view, these words would bring it. I send you this love. I'm thinking of William Blake's poem, how, in a way, we all belong to each other. Certainly these moments belong to me. I belong to you. You belong to me. But the whole notion of this poem came to me visually in a dream. It was a lucid dream, so I was interpreting as I was seeing the stick figure, it wasn't a figure, stick drawing of a Christmas tree. And it was really quite lovely. It went all the way up, getting smaller and smaller, each pair of branches to a pinnacle. And I don't remember if I did see it in bronze. If I were a visual artist, I think I'd like to cast it in bronze. The visual artist, sculptor, and painter, Mary Beth Schmidt-Fogarty, and I are collaborating on some things for her show at the Bemis in March in Omaha. And she's going to do something visually with this poem. But that was the genesis of it. Christmas, 1990. In my daughter's house is a Christmas tree, and her child of 9. And that tree and those 2 girls are mine. Through the love of the Father, I made the first myself, and through her the other. I made the first one's brother, who took a wife, who in turn made another, as my mother conceived me, and before her, her mother. As the ovum of the child resides in the grandmother, and the male enters, joining the lover, as the legs of the mother spread to give birth, it lifts from earth up to the beginning, to Lilith, to Eve, this tree, this season. Hallelujah. Usually genealogies are all male. This is my goodnight poem to you, and it's part of that larger piece, Runes and Ruins, with the visual artist David Edlifson. And the angel is speaking. Angel of night. Visible as a dark star, my purple lights are as petals soon to come on an apple bough. For now let me approach, a good and gentle parent, leaning over you, pouring sleep on your head. Wrap your arms around your breast, or make a cradle for your head, and dream as you turn down the bed's dark street. Behind this obsidian dark, the light is part of me. On the other side of the clouds, where the moon is a flower.